Let's get scratching.
The Carolina Cup. Where do I even start? Every year, it's an adventure of its own. I've been attending the Carolina Cup for 10 years. It was my first stand-up paddleboard race ever, and I didn't even finish. But every year, I've improved my finishing place. First year, didn't finish. Second year, 6-mile race, second place. Then I got 8th place in the graveyard in years 4 and 5, and I got 4th place in the graveyard years 6 and 7. Year 8, I got a 2nd place. Year 9 canceled due to COVID, but I assume based on that pattern, I would have gotten a 2nd place. And finally, in year 10, I claimed to win. It only took me a decade. But this year was a little different. The race was in November. It was incredibly cold and incredibly windy. The challenging conditions were something not a lot of people were ready for. I canceled all of my Locals Guide to Mason's Inlet clinics because I knew that it was not going to be safe to bring, 10 people out into Mason's Inlet. Instead, I rested more than I normally do in the days leading up to the race. Of course, I still had plenty to do, catching up with friends, delivering boards while running around town. I was filming food, visiting with kids' teams, filming blogs, writing blogs, doing interviews. There was a lot to do. This year was going to be the only world tour stop for the APP, which is the Association of Paddle Surf Professionals. And on Saturday, we do the distance race, and Sunday, the Surf Zone sprints. It's Carolina Cup week. And I'm filming now in the kitchen. Rachel, where are you going?
Hi, I'm going to do clinics.
Yay! I'm going to make breakfast and do some interviews and filming. And Teresa, what are you doing?
Making zucchini bread.
And we're gonna eat that later, so we're very grateful. I'm going to take you on my typical Carolina Cup mayhem, just marathon. Is it? I like alliteration.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready. Carolina Cup week, guys. A little crazy. When you're a local at a race, it's really awesome because all of your paddling friends, your fellow paddlers, they reach out to you, right? They want some advice if they need help. And also, so this particular race, this year, the Carolina Cup is an APP World Tour race. It's the only race on the World Tour this year. The Carolina Cup is usually in April. The water's chilly, but the air's nice and warm. So November, usually season's kind of winding down, coming to an end. There's this race called the Surf to Sound. It is, it's like the Carolina Cup. It's Jekyll. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? The conditions are absolutely insane. Tough cold winds out of the north, big ocean swells, just everything that Mother Nature can throw at you, she will. But you only do that race for 6 miles. And so this year, because of COVID, the Carolina Cup in April didn't happen. So they're just holding the Carolina Cup in the space that usually belongs to the Surf to Sound. This is going to be the gnarliest Carolina Cup that ever was. It is Friday. It is early morning. I am meeting the APP World Tour team. So they've got a new wellness show that they are working on, and I'm gonna make a super healthy pre-race breakfast. After that, I am headed over to my favorite and most yummy restaurant in all of Wilmington, Epic Food, to meet the kids team from Puerto Rico. There's paddling somewhere in there. I have got to warm up my new board. Shaking hands, kissing babies. Maybe kissing hands, shaking babies? No. We race tomorrow. No expectations. Almost here. All right. APP guys are somewhere in here. Oh, look! Hey, there they are!
So we've got your, I hope this is the correct ingredients.
Yeah, perfect.
So we'll do the cooking part here, and then we'll sit down and do the interview part.
Awesome. guys. No, it's really, really cold. Pop out for like 15-30 minutes, practice in the surf. I just need to get the hang of the tail of this board. It was a fun morning so far. Got those pancakes made, ingredients 3 different ways so you can hit all your fanciful macros and have plenty of energy for things like this. Look at that. At least the waves aren't so big right now. Good time to get practice, or not, I don't know. Time for my vlog. I vlog. They watched me paddle. What did it look like, guys?
It was really great, actually.
Okay. I'm freezing cold. My hair looks phenomenal. Headed over to my lunch meeting now. We're gonna meet the kids team from Puerto Rico. Peter from Heiko Lake Magazine. And we are gonna eat the most delicious food in all of Wrightsville Beach. Whee! Hold on, at Epic Food.
We're in North Carolina and it's very cold because we've been living in the tropical Caribbean where it is not this cold. So.
We're selfieing. As the race drew near, it became increasingly obvious that there was no way the organizers of the Carolina Cup would be allowed by the U.S. Coast Guard to run the graveyard race as planned. I was ready and trained for the 13.1 mile circumnavigation of Wrightsville Beach. I didn't want the course to change, but I've been working on trying to let go when it comes to expectations. Expectations can be dangerous, and letting go really kept me calm leading up to the event. You're saying the Coast Guard is not going to let us come in the inlet, so they're gonna have to make a call on the course to potentially change it. So much going on, like literally running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Can you clone me? No, you can't. There's only one. Sorry. Ah!
Hi, welcome. If you'll just sign out your waiver, we'll get you your packet and your timing.
Well, what am I signing?
You are signing that you are not going to sue the hotel for anything that goes wrong tomorrow.
Oh, that's okay. What could possibly go wrong? Look, that's me. This picture's actually on the wall in my house. I hadn't even dared to think about the overhead surf for the sprint races on Sunday. One thing at a time. I had to get through Saturday first. On Saturday, after a ton of confusion on where the starting of the race actually was, someone started the race and I led the first mile or so of the women's division, as I so often do. And then I was passed, as I so often am. This time, instead of surging when the other women made their move, I physically couldn't. They made their move and Mother Nature smacked a giant gob of reeds right on my fin. I watched the other 3 competitors slowly put a gap on me. As I neared the south end of the course, I knew there was a little sandbar poking out there. I used it to hop off in knee-deep water, remove the junk from my fin, and hop right back on without losing hardly any time at all. As I got to the intersection at Shin's Creek, I noticed the other ladies getting washed out with the tide and fighting the wind and current just to stay in one place. I knew what that felt like, and I didn't want to do that, so I took a hard left of Shin's Creek, riding an eddy before letting the current pull me east just a hair into another eddy. It was a subtle move, but required very little energy on my part. After that, I was in a narrow eddy of reduced current heading up Banks Channel. To my surprise, I was gaining on the top 3 women. It dawned on me that they were probably exhausted from their uphill battle, and I started to push a little harder as I passed Rika from Japan, then Juliet from Argentina. I pulled in for about a minute behind Kim Barnes, assessing if I should make a move. I was a little in disbelief. I went from 4th place to actually being in contention. I'm always scared of Kim though on the race course, and I knew if I made my move too soon, she'd burn me out, and I'd risk wind up being back in 4th place. The other 2 ladies weren't that far behind. With no more than 10 minutes left in the race, I pulled ahead with the longest and strongest paddle stroke that I could muster. I continued to push to my absolute maximum until the very end, just imagining I'd be caught at any moment. But I wasn't, and I stepped off my board, calm and in control as I crossed the finish line in 1st place. 10 years after not crossing any finish lines at all. I was relieved. and elated and definitely a little emotional. However, any celebrating was gonna have to wait. I needed to get dry, warm, eat, and recover and prepare for the sprint races the next morning. We were up early on the beach as we watched 30+ mile-per-hour gusts of wind blow the tops right off the overhead groundswell. They were unable to set the buoys due to the intense longshore drift, and the organizers scrambled to create a course that could provide the excitement and challenge that the competitors and crowd desired. A few hours after we arrived, an anchor with a small buoy finally took hold, and we were able to start the heats. Somebody once said that the more of my teeth you can see, the gnarlier the conditions. You can see all my teeth right now. It's looking really exciting.
Right on. We look forward to seeing you out there. Okay.
Athletes, you're now on the starter's order. Go!
I stared into the ocean from the start line, picking the perfect entry point and aiming to time my run perfectly. The soft sand and the steep drop-off made that almost impossible. Then, once I was in the water, the 30+ mile-an-hour wind paired with the longshore current was almost impossible to paddle in. In my first heat, those conditions caught me way off guard and blew me completely past the buoy. I had to re-enter through an area of larger surf. And in hindsight, I love watching this footage because I'm paddling like someone who has never even been on a paddleboard before. That just shows you how hard it was out there. I could have tried to paddle more relaxed and look way cooler for the camera, but if I looked any cooler, I was at risk of falling in and losing a lot of ground. I'd rather look like a kook and stay on my board, which the strategy worked, and I rounded the buoy without falling in all 3 of my heats. After the buoy, it was a tough battle to keep the board somewhat lined up towards the finish while trying to focus enough to catch a wave without letting the wind or the current grab the rail of your board and flip you in. There was so much water moving. I literally needed everything I've ever learned about water to stay on my board and catch a wave to the shore. I love all-out sprints and I love crazy surf conditions. And as hard as it was, by the end of the day, I was having a blast. This is my home training ground. This is where I come to practice for events like Red Bull and Pacific Paddle Games. I can't even tell you how many days I've been out there at that exact same beach as people would watch, utterly confused. Why is she standing on the beach and waiting to run until the biggest wave of the entire day is coming right at her? I've always trained there in those conditions. And more often than not, Dave Baker of Wrightsville Beach Ocean Rescue would be on his regular patrols, but keeping a caring and watchful eye on me to make sure I didn't hurt myself. All of those sessions, thanks to Dave, paid off.
Oh my god. That was hard. That wind, oh my god. We got out from behind the blockade runner. And I was like, okay, we're going that way. Goodbye. For real, what the heck? That wind was bad.
And in first place, taking down absolutely the overall for the weekend. And today, the toss from USA, right to Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, April Zilg. With equal prize money for the men and women, April will be taking home a check for $2,000. Rika $1,250, GNSS $750, and Juliet $500. Congratulations! Here's your podium shot of your top 5 once again: Carolyn Gunsel, Juliet Duhame, GNSS Echo, Rika, and April Zilg. Congratulations! Thank you. We hope to see you all in April once again. Well, in April, the month, not.
I can't even begin to describe how much joy it brings me to close out a decade of dedication with a win. So I won't even try. So read my blog if you want to get all of the feels and the feelings of, my recap at aprilzilg.com. And I hope you enjoyed this video, Behind the Race, Carolina Cup, with me, April. Oh yeah, subscribe to my channel.